This is officially the real deal after much technical difficulty and people watching us reenact the Truman Show. We are in the Auburn Singletrack House. We are about a half day removed from the culmination of the 2025 Western States 100, joined by colleagues Brett Hornig and Leah Yingling, and special guest 2025 Western States 100 champion, Abby Hall. Abby, how are you doing today? You're hearing me state this question for a second time, so it was you knew it was coming. But I talked to Jason Coupe, your coach, on the infield right around the award ceremony, and sort of probing him for possible talking points in this conversation. And one thing that he uh, asked to mention to you is sort of just like your trajectory in 100-mile races, and like it didn't come easy off the bat, right? Like with like Leadville, chasing cutoffs there, but now you're a champion. Talk about sort of just the growth you've had in this distance. Oh no.
If I talk now, we good? Or is it me that's the problem, personally?
We thought it was 3 mics. It might be 2. We'll be burning mics one by one.
Better? You can hear me on this mic. Okay.
Are we good?
All right.
Okay.
To answer your question,
Yes.
the trajectory between then and now. I mean, I think what's interesting is that, like, back, like when I first started running 100-milers, like the goal and the dream was still the same as it is now. Like I went into that first Leadville in like 2017 or whatever, being like, I want to win, and I was like second to last place. Like just got like totally beat down by the experience. Came back the next year, and I was like, all right, I really think I can win this year. Got totally smacked down again, maybe improved by like a half hour, but still like back of the pack. And I really feel like the biggest thing has been like keeping the dream alive. Like the dream for me is like what creates the momentum, like when I'm putting in the work. And it's like what makes any failures along the way feel like they're building to something rather than just like an endpoint. Like, because I could have very easily in 2017 been like, I guess 100-milers aren't for me. Or in 2018, I guess 100-milers aren't for me. And it's like, I don't know. I just don't think, especially for the 100-mile distance, that it's something that you just figure out right away all the time. Like for me, that wasn't the case. And it took a long time to work at it. And I'm so glad that I stuck with it.
That was another thing Coop said, that he has never had to like work with you on self-belief. Like that's just something that just, it seems like it comes naturally to you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely, I don't know, been running since I was a kid, and like always just had big dreams. Like I think I always just wanted to like see how far I could take the sport. And I don't know, I think like the dreaming is like a really fun part of it. Like picture like win Western States, like I'm running into the track. Like I picture that probably once a week around the clock. Like, I mean, which feels kind of crazy to say out loud, but I think I hope a lot of people are like, because I don't know, maybe that's just like how my brain works. But when I'm training, I'm often kind of daydreaming about that kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know. I always think that like we usually probably need to like believe something ourselves for a long time before maybe others will see that we're capable of it. So I think to anyone that was maybe, I don't know, surprised yesterday, I think like the people that have like breakout days knew they were capable of it long before people around them did.
Yeah, I think something that's been cool since you crossed the finish line as Western States champion is that phrase, Western States champion. How does it feel to be able to hear those words and associate them with yourself?
Totally surreal. I mean, I think especially like, being out here and like supporting like friends like Ruth and Tom who won their races here, like watching Katie go out and win last year. In some ways, like it's always felt like very accessible in some ways of like I've gotten to witness some really great people and friends like go crush the thing. But in some ways it like also has just always felt like such a dream. So it was cool. I think yesterday there were moments out there where I was like, yep, this is the Forest Hill Chaos. That was exactly how it was when Ruth came through. And this is exactly how it was when we were, with Tom at the river. And like, I think it was cool to have like, be almost like prepared for what that kind of surreal experience would be like as it was unfolding. But yeah, like the label itself is pretty exciting.
So when you had talked about, like chasing the dream and, visualizing coming down to the track and, being the first one to cross the finish line, now that you kind of caught the dream, are you like awoken from Western States? Are there still any more dreams here with this race?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel I don't like I don't know quite how to put this, like, but I feel like the training like was so enjoyable. I didn't have to like press for it. And even like the race was like it was a hard thing for sure, but it was by no means like the hardest race I've ever run. Like, and maybe too that's because I've had some of these where it's like 31 hours of UTMB, like 20, like I've had the long days, and those are hard. Finishing those days is brutal. And like Cordis and I always say, kind of like when it goes well, it goes well. So I am curious if there's more juice to squeeze there. And like I certainly enjoyed doing it this year and could see myself enjoying doing it again next year just for that reason. Like I like the training for it. I like the race itself, and yeah, just enjoyed it. So it does, I guess, breed more curiosity.
What do you think made a difference, if not one thing, maybe it was many, from having a finish like you've had at Leadville, like you've had a UTMB? What was the variable or a few of the controllables that you feel like you dialed here at Western States to bring you to that first place on the podium position?
For me, mindset was a huge one. Earlier this week, Cordis and I were talking and just about some of those like finishes that I have grinded out. And like I'm almost so used to that mode of just like, oh, this is a tough day. Guess we're just grinding it out and like walking it into the finish. I've gotten so used to like knowing that I can always like get it done, that I found myself like more hungry than ever to perform. And I think there is something really nice about not fearing that like I can complete the distance and I can like grit it out if things turn south, or if I just need to, if I have a blip and I have a low, I can find my way out of it. But like having that kind of background of experience made me feel like the risks weren't that risky, because if I had to like take my foot off the gas for a bit, like I could manage.
I've got two questions. The first, so we had you in studio, I think it was Tuesday, and it just occurred to me, I don't think we asked you what your intentions were for the race. Like we weren't asking like, are you in it to win it? Are you in it to top 10? Like, where do you feel like you belong in this competitive field? If you were to go back in time, like if we had asked you that question, how would you have answered?
I mean, I think my goal going into it was to race more aggressively for sure. And I feel like, I think the way I put it to my crew was kind of like, if I'm in 11th, we're looking to 10th. If I'm in 6th, we're looking to 5th. If I'm in 2nd, we're looking to 1st. If I'm in 1st, we're looking to like time. And so it's like, I know on paper, you could look at it as like, I have no reason thinking I should like go into this race trying to win. But like, I think I really try to view it optimistically of like, no, like, why not me? I have absolutely all the reasons to believe I could, go in confidently and run an aggressive race end to end. And my goal was to just go be assertive from the start and see who wanted to come with and see how I could manage myself from there, and just really take it section by section.
And to build off that, it sounds like you were surprised that there weren't that many people there with you when you sort of made those moves early. Do you have any thoughts there? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I was, like I had heard, some murmurs of like big time goals and things like that. And I was, curious who all was going to go out hard from the start. And really, I think I was closest to Martina and Ida, like really through the high country and into the canyons. And then, took the lead coming out of Michigan Bluff. And knew there was a lot of race unfolding behind me, and obviously knew there were some incredible, hard hitters behind me that were like doing everything they could. So I then just focused on building my gap as best I could from there. But like I knew that there were great people on the chase.
Something that I heard you reference, and I think I saw Cordis post, was this idea that you had your foot on the gas all day long. Did it feel like that from the gun? And was there ever an opportunity or a time where you felt like you did take your foot a little bit off the gas in a self-preservation mindset?
I feel like I was like, it's not like foot on the gas, like 50K foot on the gas, but like I do feel like I was pressing kind of the whole time. Like if I was just constantly just trying to crank the pace down and just like, I don't know. One thing I've thought about races a lot before is kind of like taking those little physical steps that maybe the person behind you wouldn't take, running up the little rocky thing you want to hike, or like, and just like thinking of like, what are 15 ways in this mile that I can just like build that much more of a gap, like breaking that gap down into small pieces. I think that was something, especially the last 10 to 15 miles, that really came into play. It was just, trying to like hold off Fujao, and she was like pushing so hard. At least that's like what I was hearing in all the updates. But it definitely felt like the foot was on the gas, but it didn't feel like over the line at any point. There were definitely some stretches though where I was like rolling into like Duncan, where I was just like, we are moving, or rolling in dusty corners with Ida, or just like running like 6:30 pace. It's like, wow, this is just like wild.
When you took the lead at Michigan Bluff, what was going through your head when it's like, I am now winning Western States?
I mean, I really have felt like there's no other, like, I don't know how to quite put it other than like this like magnetic pull to what the day was going to be. And even like sending down to El Dorado, I was like, I'm going to pass her on the climb and I'm going to be in the lead when I get into Michigan Bluff. And like, I just like believed it. And then I saw her and I made the move, and like, I don't know quite how to put it. Just like this pull, like I felt like it was kind of meant to be. And, I don't know. I know that probably sounds like kind of corny, but
I mean, it sounds like competitive instincts.
yeah, that's probably a more tactical way of putting it.
Yeah, Martina went from having a kind of significant lead at some point to having herself a rough day, and then you found yourself with an 11-minute gap, I think, whenever you finally took the lead. Was there anybody, you mentioned Fujao, about kind of like chasing you down in the later miles? Did you feel confident once you took the lead that you would hold it, and you could hold it in those like more scary moments later when gaps were closing?
Yeah, I did. I think that like as the race goes on, it feels harder and harder, at least in my experience, harder to close a gap. Like, a 5-minute gap, or like even putting on time through the escarpment or the high country, that feels like the easiest time to like build a gap. It's like 65 degrees and your like legs are fresh and you're all tapered and just peppy. That feels like a way easier time to build a gap than like from like Rucky Chucky to the finish. And so I was trying to focus on like how I could just maximize the effort kind of amongst those miles.
This is kind of a two-part question, but going into Western States, was there a portion of the course that you looked at and you were like, this is my strength? And then the second part, were there any sections of the course, looking back now, that you think in the future you could make up significant amount of times on, due to maybe how you're feeling or the terrain itself?
Yeah, good question. I think the canyons are definitely a place where I feel confident, and I feel like it is like a section that like you have to nail the race. Like, I felt like I really enjoyed everything through the high country, through the canyons, because it was like felt most like what I was running at home. And my goal for that section was like just think of home, think of Flagstaff, think of the training runs, think of the work. So even like some of those hot exposed stretches like on Devil's Thumb and all that, it's just like this is just like another long run at home, another climb out of the canyon. And it was great because Ida was near me for some of those too. So I was like, another long run with Ida. This is just like what you do. So I think the canyons were probably a strength for me, like especially the climbs. And I think probably the area like where I could make up time in the future would probably be some of the steeper descents into the canyons. So I guess it was the climbs specifically in the canyons for me that I felt went well, but like some of those like the one descending down to Swinging Bridge, like you're kind of plummeting down there. Yeah.
We talked about this in the midweek interview, but I want to reiterate it here. I've found it fascinating that you have performed through some pretty key transition moments in the sport. Like those two CCCs that you podiumed at were like two totally different years, and the amount of progression collectively in the fields year over year was insane. You held steady. I feel like we've been continuing to live in that transition for years now, and I'm wondering, with this year's Western States, are there any like general observations or racing philosophies that you're like ready to talk about in terms of like what it takes to stay relevant here?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think specific to Western states, one thing I find interesting is like, I think, this year there was a lot of conversation around times and records and things like that. But I think yesterday was kind of like a good reminder of like how much those temperatures and conditions really play into that. Because I think there was that feeling of for a while, like every year it's, the times keep dropping and dropping and dropping. But like, yeah, the temps do make a difference in that. And I think especially like if I were to like, come back again would be something I'd have in mind too. It's like, race the day that you're racing. Like, it's yeah, like conditions are always different year to year. And then I think I was curious to see that the women's field, I think, kind of went back to this model of like I think I even spoke about earlier in our chat this week that like when I raced the race in 2021, I was going to it thinking like kind of like go out easy and then like wait for people to blow up and pick up the carnage. And then we didn't see that the last few years. It was just like everyone goes out and nails it. Rising tides raise all ships, and everyone just like crushes fast times. And I felt like it was interesting to hear how some of the women's race played out this year, that there was a lot more like, brutal experiences out there for folks in the heat and everything in between. So like seeing this model of kind of returning to like pushing fast times and then like maybe, people not making it through.
I think oftentimes in the build to Western States and the golden ticket season, it can be kind of easy to count out the people who are fourth and fifth place in these golden ticket races. They get roll down tickets, which is similar to your experience this year. Do you have any words of advice for people who might be in your position who feel like they're almost this underdog despite the fact that they should not be an underdog coming into this race? Because I think a lot of people could find themselves in a similar situation of you where you're quietly putting in the work all the time and almost like waiting for the world to really see what's going on behind the scenes behind your performances.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the golden ticket fields are so dense and there's like so many emotions like with people hunting tickets. And I think that I think those races are just like a really good way to grow as an athlete. Like I would really recommend to athletes that are looking to grow like at that level to throw their hat in the ring and try golden ticket races, because I think it's just really dense racing, but also like I don't know. I think just in general with the result, like to read into it or not read into it as much or as little as you want. I feel like even for me with yesterday, it's like I was the fastest time on the day yesterday. Who knows if the race would have been tomorrow or last week, how the results would have played out. But I think it's like important to look at that on the good days and bad days. Like I've had plenty of bad days. I've had good days. Neither of them define me as a person. They're nice data points to collect over time and hope that I'm like growing and trending in the direction I want to. And of course, like, it's a really sweet victory to celebrate yesterday. But yeah, I think it's like, for someone who's like you said, like with the, fourth, fifth positions, like, grinding away, like, read into it as much or as little as you want to. Just like keep putting in the work.
I love that. And speaking of work, you've been with your coach, Jason Coupe, for a while now. Was there a point in your training this year or in recent years, after you've completed a block or maybe a specific session, where you've conversed or thought yourself, like, this is what I'm capable of? Like, I can be a Western States champion. I can be a UTMB champion. Can you talk a little bit about like how that interaction works and where you draw confidence in your training?
Yeah, absolutely. Coop and I have been working together for, I think this fall will be like 8 years of
Wow.
working together, which is really cool. I mean, yeah, like just so much growth during that time. And yeah, he's seen me through so much. I mean, he was like there with me after I got out of surgery, and like, he's been with me through thick and thin. He's like, yeah, not only my coach, but a good friend too. Um, and I think like the way I was kind of putting it to him, we were like chatting on the infield last night, of just kind of like, you prepare around the clock for these moments as an athlete that you don't know if you're going to get, but then like all of a sudden yesterday when it was like, it's happening, like today's the day, like we're going with it. I felt so ready to rise to it in that moment. And I think that's something that's just been slowly happening in the background through our work together. Like our goal for me, like this season, the goal for 25 and 26 was to get on the podium at Western States or UTMB in the next 2 years. And so we both agreed, we felt like my best shot at that was at Western States. And so I like it was I don't know, definitely a hope, but it wasn't the expectation or anything to go out and win yesterday. But yeah, like it was cool to accomplish that goal, I guess.
So having a coach for 8 years is definitely cool because things can definitely get fine-tuned and tweaked quite a bit. Was there anything like for this Western States training block that was significantly different from previous ones, or is it just a continuation of stacking bricks?
I think there were some specificity pieces that we dialed in for sure. The volume was definitely high, but also like by the hours, which is like we go by duration. And so the mileage gets higher because it kind of balloons with like the Western States specific training versus, a 6-hour run prepping for UTMB. You're not going to get in nearly as many miles or whatever. And so when he was first assigning things in the block, I was like, oh man, I'm kind of nervous. This is going to be like big. And then he went back through and walked me through my build for my like PR at CCC, where he was like, we basically road mapped it based on that. Like he was like, you go by the hours. We did 7 hours this day, like, and so it was cool to, I think it's kind of part of the benefit of having such a long history together is like he could remind me to like draw from past experiences in that way and be like, this is what we did that was working in the past. And then as far as like the specificity, I think we got like a little more into some of the details of the heat training. I messed around with these like ingestible core temperature pills, which was kind of fun, to kind of like validate some cooling methods, track my body temp in the heat, where I did some like runs in Phoenix and Sedona and stuff like that. So yeah, dialed that in, as well as like I think in general, just I don't know. Yeah, I guess those were the main things. Yeah.
We were talking before we started recording about one thing that was interesting about this year and past was like, oh, is the heat of Western States like a non-factor anymore? And then the amount of just like publicity that heat training was getting leading up to this race. And then being out there was tons of people that were just getting absolutely destroyed by the heat. I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the advice I always like think of for just like different trail running skills in general is like, if you want to get better at climbing, climb a lot. If you want to get better at technical trails, run on technical trails a lot. If you want to get good at running in the heat, run in the heat. And like, I think that in particular for Western States, like the kind of like radiant heat from the sun, and that feeling of baking in a canyon is just so difficult to replicate in a synthetic environment. And so I felt like I really drew from a lot of the runs that I did, like down, like on the Javelina course, just like totally exposed, super hot. It made the heat not feel like a real issue to me yesterday. And I really felt like that worked well. I definitely did like a sauna block and things like that, especially because like I'm not running in, on the Javelina course every day of the week or something like that. It helps you like, you know, build the time spent at heat over time. But I think that some of those specific runs in the heat were really helpful.
I think this is sort of a big picture question, but I think it's interesting. You've been, in my book at least, an established elite professional athlete on the scene now for many years, dating back to like 2018, 2019. You've got really big results to your resume. This probably has to be the biggest one to date. Do you anticipate how this changes your life or what this does for your career? I'm so curious, like what you like as you're processing this, like what does like a post Western States win world look like for you?
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I think I've been trying to, already think about like, yeah, even just last night, like, what do I do now? Like, what's the rest of the summer like? Like, am I racing that at UTMB? Am I doubling down on this, or am I like, taking the summer to kind of take it in? I think either way can't really go wrong, but I definitely feel more excited than ever to keep swinging big, keep growing with the sport. I mean, it's, I think, a huge part of, how I got there yesterday.
So you had a pretty big support crew out there yesterday, one of those being your partner, Cordis.
Yep.
Cordis, if you don't mind coming to the couch, we've got some questions for you now as well. So Cordis took you on a decent pacing section out there last night. Can you tell what Cordis provides for you in those low moments out there? And then maybe we'll hand the mic off to Cordis to give a reflection on how he felt about your day out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Cordis paced me from the river to the finish and was crewing me all day prior to that. And for me, like, it's really cool. Like, I think, really push each other, like, I feel like a pretty radical way. I feel like we're pretty like, I don't know, like we're comfortable really getting into it out there and holding each other to a really high standard. I say each other because I'll pace you sometimes too. And yeah, I think yesterday, one of the most important parts of what Cordis brought to that section was like reminding myself to not focus so much on the gap behind me, but like forward momentum, me versus me, getting to the finish. It's going to happen. Believe, be deliberate with every step. And I mean, it doesn't mean I was like not asking him every 30 seconds, like, pull out your phone and refresh the tracker. What was the gap at Quarry Road? Because I feel like that paranoia just builds. Once the paranoia builds, I feel like it keeps like building. And yeah, I think that he helps hold me true to those like kind of mantras that I set going into the race. And I think that can be, really meaningful coming from a partner.
Cordis, now you spent several miles with Abby out there yesterday. You've also spent some other 100-mile races that were probably a little tougher towards the end, a little longer. And darker moments and those tough moments, what do you say to get Abby to move forward, and what kind of support do you feel like Abby thrives best with?
I think for myself, in any 100-miler, like the battle is holding yourself accountable to like what you said you wanted to do. And so, yeah, I just want to make sure that like you don't miss those little moments of like you could have ran that uphill and like it a month later, and you think about those little things. And if you want to win Western States, you know that whoever wins will be doing all those things. So I wanted to make sure she stayed accountable to that. Like she said, though, I do feel like my main job was really providing updates on Fuzhou most of the time. So I kind of wish I didn't bring my phone. But yeah, it was just keeping her accountable, run this, run that, even like thinking about every little flat section. Like, can we put 5 seconds on somebody here? Like, if you run it at 8-minute pace, what happens if we can get to 7:45 pace for 10 seconds? So just like all those little things like that.
Like, I think also is cool. Some of the things you were reminding me of were like, this is like what you have to do to be the winner of Western States. Like, you want it to be hard earned. You want it to be really hard towards the end. So I appreciate that you like held me to that high standard and reminded me like, this is what produces the result you want. And it's how you want it to be too. Like, you want it to be hard earned.
Yeah.
You get to see a lot of what goes on behind the scenes. I think that's something that's cool about partnerships in ultra running and really any endurance sport is you get to watch your partner or somebody close to you just stacking bricks year over year, day over day, and really seeing the work that somebody puts in. What do you think is a strength that brought Abby to the top spot on the podium, and what's something that you've been watching her silently peck away at year over year?
I think the big difference for this especially was, like I think she said before, belief was never an issue. She fundamentally, I think, believed this for a long time. And so that was great. But then when she went through the injury, I think just the nature of the injury, like you're not going to be the best orthopedic surgeon. Like you're not going to own that. So you have to offload everything to experts. And I think the next step here was she then realized, like, well, for running, I'm the one that has to run the race. Like I need to offload the right things to experts, but I need to own everything. And I think she did a really good job having like her nutrition was figured out. And it wasn't her nutritionist's thing. It was her thing that she worked with a nutritionist to figure out. So she owned every aspect of the race. And then it was our responsibility as the crew to put that all together for her. Yeah.
So then in regards to the race, and maybe like a lot of the decision making that goes around what's going on during the race, are you queuing then off of Abby, or is there a plan and you're just like, I fully trust the crew, whatever they say goes?
I like for nutrition and all that, like that's just like pre-planned everything. You're just rolling with that. As far as tactics, that's like you got like a high level idea, but you can't predict what's going to happen really. So for that, you just kind of adapt as you go. And then for little problems, like if little things come up, you just try and mitigate them as you go. Like you wanted new socks at one point, and then we had them at the next aid station, and then you didn't say anything. So like, well, cool. No new socks.
But I think also too, like in our household, we run a very like it's the runner's race. Like it's not the crew's race, it's not the pacer's race. Runner tell like and earlier this week at one point I was like wanting Cordis to be involved in some of the details, but you reminded me of like this needs to be your choice. Like you need to own this end to end and feel like you're making the decisions about your race and how you want it to go so that you can execute. Like because I think my tendency sometimes will be to like, what do I do? Or what do you think I should do? And like, I think that kind of is like an important ethos to have going into a race of like, you know the answers, you got what you need, but then, you make the decisions. And so I think you pushed me to that.
Cordis, a question for you. I know you talked about the belief thing a moment ago, so maybe that is the answer, but is there anything about Abby as an athlete in this sport that you feel like goes underappreciated and or you would want this audience to just like recognize this interview?
I mean, just athletically, I think she proved it in the race. Like if you have like a long grindy climb, like she's not a fun person to run with. Like I feel like whenever we end up on that kind of stuff on a run together, like a long dirt road climb, she's just like a notch too hard the whole time. It's just like not fun. Like even Adam and Aaron were down in Phoenix. We were running with them. I feel like she just like latched onto Adam. I was like, come on, what are you doing here? But yeah, I would say that's like her real talent athletically, and then the belief side too. That yeah, you're fantastic at believing in yourself, and it's sort of a simple thing, but saying like, why not? Like it's got to be somebody. Like why couldn't that be me?
I wanted to say this too. It sounds like you guys lead a really dedicated lifestyle. Like in a lot of ways, you guys have kind of given yourself to the sport, and that like permeates everything you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of why you would move to Flagstaff in a lot of ways. Like if you like that stuff, it's heaven. If you don't like that kind of stuff, it might not be like as fun for you. So yeah, we definitely pretty much every day is like running. I mean, 95. Otherwise, all I do outside of that is run and take care of Abby.
Abby, we got a question in the chat about footwear. Are you able to share what shoes you raced in over the course of yesterday?
Yeah, I wore the Adidas Terrex Gravic Speed Ultra yesterday, which was really purpose built for Western States. And yeah, it's the same. I see the follow up question is different model or second secret version. Just the normal inline Gravic Speed Ultra you can buy off the shelf. Same foam, same everything. Yeah, I mean, I really believe in that shoe a ton. I actually very intentionally did not train in that shoe in my training block at all because it is a really fast shoe, and I wanted to really save it for race day. So I trained in more of like a little bit of a harder foam, kind of the Gravic 3, which doesn't have a plate. And I think just is like good to be putting in the miles and something like that, and then you kind of feel the magic of the softer foam on race day. And the rocker shape I think really propels you forward. And I know that I think Cordis experiences when you're in canyons, but just really kind of I feel like gives you some free time, especially in those descents. It's an incredible shoe.
Very cool. You'd mentioned like almost changing socks at one point.
Yeah.
Did you end up just sticking one pair of shoes, one pair of socks the whole race?
Yep. One pair of shoes, one pair of socks. Just keep it all nestled in there. Keep it bundled to the finish.
Shoe changes are dying. Everything is fast.
As we close down the interview, I mean, first, I just want to express gratitude. Thank you so much for being in studio with us today, both you, Cordis and Abby. I know this is an annoying question because we want to relish the moment, but what's next? Like, how do you what does your vacation look like? What are you doing in the next few weeks? What does recovery look like from Western?
Heading out to the San Juans in our van, which should be fun, and be out there for Hard Rock. Cheer on friends, enjoy some time in the mountains. And then, I'm definitely trying to decide what I'll do just in terms of UTMB. I'm not ruling UTMB off the table. But at the very least, in the meantime, just enjoying and celebrating for now.
I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Embracing and just enjoying every moment of what you just did out there. I know that was the culmination of not just the last couple of months of hard work, but years and years of hard work. And I think you proved to everybody that you deserve to be right there, the winner of Western States, which very few people can say. So you're a quiet killer who just stacks bricks, and it's incredibly inspiring to see. And I think you've inspired so many people out there, and I'm really excited to follow the rest of your career over the next many, many years.
Thank you so much.
One last bit. You won the race yesterday, but I also think you're winning the post-race game. You on the women's side, Killian on the men's side. You guys look the freshest. Killian's like jump, but awesome. Abby, Cordis, thank you so much for stopping by, and enjoy the downtime. Enjoy Hard Rock. Wishing you the best. Thank you.
Thank you all.